Absolutely amazing information here. First of all, this from the news, according to WMAZ Channel 13, man in Macon, Georgia, pulled into the gas station and tried to stick his .45 in his pants, in his holster in his pants. It discharged. According to police, the victim drove to his friend's house, dropped his pants, and found that he had shot himself through the penis and the bullet had exited through his buttocks. Ouch! What this points out, well, for example, 166,500 children and teens died from guns on American soil between 1963 and 2010, while only 52,183 U.S. soldiers were killed in action in Vietnam, Afghanistan, and the Iraq wars combined during that same period. On average, 3,470 children and teens are killed by guns every year from 53 to 2010. The second leading cause of death among children and teens ages 1 through 19 is guns. Motor vehicles are number one. Guns are number two. And here's the really shocking thing. U.S. children and teens are 17 times, that's 1,700% more likely to die from a gun. And the vast majority of them, by the way, are accidental deaths. Kids playing with guns and shooting each other by accident are 17 times more likely to die from a gun than their peers in 25 other high-income countries combined. 18,270 children and teens died or were injured by guns in 2010. A teen dies or is injured by a gun every 30 minutes in America. What do we do about this? Neil McCabe is a conservative commentator, the editor of the Guns and Patriots newsletter, gunsandpatriots.com. Neil, welcome back to the program.
Tom, great to be with you.
So literally every day, over on either Raw Story or Daily Kos, they've got people keeping track of it on both. It's the Gun Fail program over on Daily Kos. Every day they list 4 or 5 little kids who died the day before because they picked up dad's gun or older brother's gun or somebody's gun that got left around, thought it was a toy, and shot themselves or shot somebody else. We have more guns than any other country in the world on a per capita basis. And, in fact, we have as many guns as we do people. We account for 5% of the global population, but we own 50% of all the civilian-owned guns in the world. And it's killing us. What do we do about this?
I'm not sure what the problem is. Of course, I will say that it's kind of a ghoulish thing to keep track of. I know that for political reasons, it's important to do these things.
This is the Children's Defense Fund. They came up with these stats.
Whoever those interns are who have to keep track of the children being killed by guns, that's got to be a ghoulish way to earn a living.
Well, I think what they did is they probably went to Google and put a Google alert in, and you get the news story every day. But I don't think that's anywhere near as ghoulish.
We can agree that any child dying or being killed or shot is a tragedy that we want to avoid.
So Neil, let me get this straight. Let me get this straight.
I think what you want to do is you want to enlist pediatricians as arms of a government to track down guns and move towards seizure.
Let me get this straight. First, we'll get to that. But first of all, are you suggesting to me that the people over the Children's Defense Fund keeping track of how many children are killed by the fact that, we have 50% of all the civilian-owned guns in the world and only 5% of the global population, that's ghoulish, but that the NRA and their front guys for the weapons manufacturing industry promoting guns to children with their Eddie Eagle program and stuff like this, that's not ghoulish?
Well,
they're actually promoting death. These guys are reporting on it.
Indoctrinating children into healthy gun use is not a problem. And I'm sure that you support the NRA and other people, doing that because we don't want children to see their first gun when they're 15.
I do.
We want them to understand that these are dangerous things, but they're also very useful
I disagree.
and interesting for target practice and hunting.
I disagree.
And of course, that front group you're talking about, are you talking about the National Shooting Sports Foundation based in Newtown, Connecticut?
Is that a joke?
No, I mean that's who they are. If you're talking the trade group that represents firearms manufacturers and ammunition manufacturers is the National Shooting Sports Foundation, and they're based in Newtown, Connecticut.
You're saying the NRA is not heavily funded by the weapons manufacturing industry?
Well, I mean, heavily funded. They're a trade group for the firearms industry. So I mean,
Right. Okay.
I mean,
So,
that's what it is. You don't have to
point
make it
made.
sound sinister.
All right, let's get to the pediatricians. Right now, pediatricians can ask, and it's an appropriate question, because given that the second leading cause of childhood death is accidental death by a gun in the house, it's not an unreasonable thing for a pediatrician to say the leading cause of death is car accidents. It's not an unreasonable thing for a pediatrician to say to the child, particularly in the presence of the parent, number one, when you get in a car, do you always fasten your seatbelt? And number two, is there a gun in your house? And if so, do you have access to it? Do you know how to use it? Has anybody ever told you that you should not touch it or go near it? There's nothing wrong with that, but you conservatives now want to pass a law that would insert a big government official into that pediatrician's office, and if that pediatrician brings up the topic of a gun in the home with the child, you want that big government official to arrest that pediatrician.
Well, I'm not sure if we'll arrest him. Maybe we'll just give him a fine or maybe
slap
take
him
away his
upside the
license.
head.
But,
Yeah.
I mean, Tom, you're the one who's deputizing physicians as agents of the government to inquire
No, this
into
is not
private
this.
business.
This has
And then
got nothing to do with.
what does the
You're the
doctor
one
do
who
with
wants
this
to put the
information, Tom?
government in the
Where does the
pediatrician's
information go?
office, Neil.
Does it go into a folder at the doctor's office?
Let us
or
make
does
this
it go
very
to the
clear.
government?
Let us make this very clear. We have a public health crisis in the United States. The second leading cause of death.
I don't accept it as a public health
The
crisis.
second leading
all right?
cause of death among children is accidental discharge of firearms. That's a public health crisis. If that's a public health crisis and pediatricians are supposed to deal with public health crises with children, then it's an entirely appropriate thing for a pediatrician to talk to children, to talk to their patients about whether or not there's a gun in their home, or what do they do if they're at a friend's house and there's a gun available. At the same time you're saying you don't like big government, you want to insert a government monitor into that pediatrician's office and nail that guy if he mentions guns. I find that bizarre.
The government is to lift the burden from the people's shoulders. And so why do I want to have a government? I don't want a pediatrician acting as a government agent inquiring into people's private business. Where does this information go, Tom? I mean, the doctor's not doing it on his own. He must be working
pediatrician
with
is not
agency in your scheme, right?
If I'm a pediatrician and I'm talking to a child about guns in the household, no, pediatricians, they don't call up the ATF and say, hey, I just found another one.
So
no,
why is a doctor? So
it's a health issue, Neil.
Does a pediatrician
Death
have the
is
training to decide whether or not it's a good idea for this family to have a gun? Does he look at the neighborhood? Does he suggest security cameras? I mean, why is a pediatrician somehow talking to some 12-year-old
because the
whether or not
12-year-olds
his
are
dad should have
dying?
a gun or not?
Because the 12-year-olds are dying. If the second leading cause of death in the United States was children choking on lettuce, would you be opposed to a pediatrician asking the child if they know how to chew lettuce?
Well, Tom, I mean, the fact is that more infants,
serious question.
Infants die from choking on popcorn and hot dogs, and so the pediatrician, does your dad chew on? Does the dad teach you how to chew on popcorn?
I'm assuming
does your dad cut up your hot dogs for you?
My kids are all in their 30s now, so I don't have a real clear recollection of my wife's earlier conversations with our pediatricians. But I'm assuming that part of appropriate education of new mothers and new fathers is how to avoid your child choking. I mean, I remember we had we never used baby food. We ground up our own food. We had one of these baby food grinders, and we certainly learned how to use that. So
I want freedom, Tom, and I don't want doctors reporting to the government. If this is just a conversation...
No, you want the government monitoring the doctors.
Then I'm for it.
Okay. All right. Neil McCabe, you can read all about it at gunsandpatriots.com. Neil, thank you for dropping by.
Great to be with you, Tom.
And have fun at the Alamo.
Absolutely,
we
man.
lost there.